We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
I've decided to respond to a copyright strike that I got from this guy, Adventures with Christian. He obviously is retaliating because I did the video and then asked this guy, Area 51 writer, to post it for me, because he tries to share with others about how paranoid Christian is about people using any of the material that he shares on YouTube. And I guess he convinced YouTube of the fact that, you know, what I showed, which by the way was only a small section like this big on your screen at the bottom, and I've seen hundreds of people do this on movies. They'll post a whole film, but 95% of it is just like a graphic of something, and then they've got the little picture at the bottom of the actual movie. And that's what I did with Christian's sequence of what he had shown, but anyway, he convinced them of it. Now, what I am saying in this video today is, number one, that YouTube is starting to take away our freedom of speech rights, because that's why they removed my channel, my video from my channel. The video is primarily 90% my own material, except for when I was trying to share what he was describing. This guy, Christian Gronau, he was describing it sitting down someplace, just talking about what he saw. And then the other sequence that apparently YouTube said, well, that's copyright too, because you're showing it even if it's in a little box on your screen like this, was at the mine shaft. He went in there with a guy and he was showing people where the elevator shaft was, and he never had the guts to go down into the lower channels or sections of the mine shaft. I'm going to ask Area 51 writer to post this video. And to any hypocrite who responds and says, oh, this is just rambling and ranting and all the rest of it, I'm going to say this. When our country allows the people, like on the social media platforms of YouTube, Google, Facebook, Twitter, to control what we say and what we can express about ourselves. It means basically that communism and socialism has proven itself, that it's now controlling not only our nation, but it's controlling our freedom of speech, which is one of the First Amendments. It is the First Amendment in the Constitution. There are also things called the Bill of Rights, which is the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, freedom to talk about things without fear that the government would actually retaliate against you. And that's what YouTube just did to me. They took off my video because Christian probably is somehow pampered by YouTube itself, so that whenever he does something, he's obviously one of the few people who are still being monitorized, that YouTube makes money from what he shares on his channel. And I'm going to tell this to Christian: if you see this video, I paid you a donation, and this is how you retaliate against people you don't like. Well, I say, fine, you're not going to get any more money from me anyway. But this time, this video today is going to show the footage that I created myself. And if YouTube takes this video down, it is proof positive that they are not saying anymore that you're using someone else's material, as much as it's saying we are communistic and we are socialists and we are fascists, and now we are saying what you can and you cannot say on our service on YouTube. So that's the premise, or the whole intention of this video, is to tell people, you as a viewer are the next person on this whole campaign that YouTube is going against people who say something that they don't agree with. And for Christian to retaliate against somebody because he doesn't like you, he doesn't like what you say, and then YouTube actually stands by that philosophy, this is proof, beyond proof, that our freedom of speech is gone. That the United States is literally now the United Socialist States of America. And this is all a part of Barack Obama's whole plan of subversion. Complacency is what creates idiocy, and that's what we're seeing right now. Socialism is taking over the entire system of our rights of individual freedom to speak out and to say something. And now YouTube just did it to me. They said, we don't like what you said about Christian, so we're removing it. They do this to this video, and it has nothing about anything Christian might have said, any visual of him. The only thing in this video that probably YouTube is going to say is copyright is I'm going to have a little picture of his face up on top of my video to show people who I'm talking about. And it's a photograph. It is not video, it's not audio. If they remove this video off the channel, it's proof positive that YouTube now is basically proving that we are now a Soviet republic. We are part of what is really now still the Federation of Russia, where your rights are totally controlled by the government. Your choices, your decisions, everything, it's now up to the social platforms who speak for the government to say what you can talk about or what you can say. And everything else is now entirely up to our government to say whether or not we can even talk about something. And if you haven't seen it yet, you ought to go to Glenn Beck's webpage. He has a video, and it's all about socialism. It's 2.5 hours, and it shows how throughout the history of the world, the Communist Socialist Party has been manipulating various cultures, various nations, and taking away not only capitalism, but also freedom itself. And now it's happening in America today. Right now, they are taking away our freedoms as American citizens to speak out, to say anything. And I say again, any hypocrite who says, oh, this is a bunch of crap, it's not worth watching, all the rest of it, I say, you are nothing more than a communist stooge yourself, because all you're doing is saying you advocate for the total perversion of our individual rights as individuals and citizens, by the way, of America. Because now they're saying that Mexicans have more rights and they're not even citizens of this country. And that's now what YouTube itself is saying. People in other countries, they've got all the rights in the world to say whatever they want to do, whatever they want to say. But us, as Americans, who used to be the freest people in the world, now we are subjugated to a communist regime that Barack Obama started in this country in 2008. And now the communists themselves, the socialists, who make up the Democratic Party, are now controlling all the socialist platforms, all of them, Instagram, Google, the Facebook and Twitter systems, and now they're on YouTube. Of course, YouTube's been doing this for the last 10 years. That's one reason on all my videos, you see that guy at the beginning saying, we should never allow the government or YouTube to say what is and is not acceptable speech. That means you have the right as an American citizen, we supposedly did have rights as American citizens, to say what we want to say, to do whatever we wanted to do on YouTube without fear of retaliation from harassment from YouTube itself, and saying, you can't say that, you can't do that, because we're not letting you do this anymore. We're going to dictate to you, and we're going to say whether what you say on your video is an acceptable way of expressing yourself, because now we're going to decide that, and not you as an American citizen. And I tell you something, they removed my video, I'm going to sue them. I'm going to take them to court, and I'm going to file a lawsuit for a total violation of my constitutional rights as an American citizen of free speech. I'm going to sue them if they continue to just act as though it doesn't matter what other people say. It's a select group of people in this country who are supposed to have rights to speak out on issues they think is acceptable or it's not acceptable. And I praise, I clap for Area 51 Ryder, because he's one of the last few people who is standing up to this guy Christian Gronau, Adventures with Christian. He's standing up against him. And now you see that Christian's totally retaliated against people who are either friends with him, who stand with him, who do things that he doesn't appreciate or he doesn't like it. And it's like, this is obviously the money game. You know, Christian makes money for YouTube, so they're going to obviously stand by him and back him up. And that's what they're doing against people who say things that they don't agree with. Another reason for this video today is to give Christian a little understanding of my background. I'm going to show footage of my sister's murder in Tampa, Florida. And I'm not saying this guy walked in and shot people with a gun, okay, Christian? This guy walked in with a bucket full of gasoline. And gasoline is bad because it burns you. And that's what Ferry, the guy that I'm going to show, that's what he did to my sister. He threw 4 gallons of gasoline directly on my sister, and she was a cashier at this Winn-Dixie store. He lit it with a cigarette lighter. Thankfully for her, she didn't survive for more than 10 seconds. That's according to the coroner. She was burned to death by the fire. She was electrocuted by the cash register having exploded. She was asphyxiated because of the fumes of the gasoline. And what I'm trying to say in this segment is that people have tried to silence me since my sister died, because they've said, oh, that's not appropriate. This is not something you should be talking about. You shouldn't be doing this because it hurts other people's feelings. I'll give you an example. My sister's high school had a reunion in 2001. 2001. They were going to have everybody come together from their high school. They refused to allow me to talk about what happened to my sister in that high school reunion. You know why? Because their assumption was, oh, you're going to offend people who have just lost loved ones on 9/11. So they kicked me out of that high school reunion. They said, you can't come, you cannot speak here, you can't do anything, you can't even bring up your sister and the fact she went to this high school, because of the fact that what she went through might hurt other people's feelings. So they kicked me out of that high school reunion. And I'm saying to you, I'm saying to everybody, in 38 years' time, you see that same attitude of indifference to other people who have lost loved ones. And they're saying, if we don't think what you're saying is appropriate, out you go. You can't say nothing. You can't do anything. And that's what YouTube just did when I tried to express myself about Christian Gronau and what he was trying to express about himself in this Area 51 video he did. And all of it has to do with money. He makes money for YouTube, so therefore they retaliated against me. You know why? I don't make money for YouTube. I don't monetize. I never have monetized my channel. That's another reason YouTube hates me, because they say, you're not making us money. So anything you post, if it offends somebody who is making money, boom, your channel or your video is gone. And that's what YouTube just did to me. They're going to do it to who knows how many other millions of people on YouTube. But I'm saying to you, Christian, I'm telling anybody who is hypocritical about what I'm trying to say in this video. I fought for my sister's rights after she died, after she was burned to death in that supermarket. I am not giving up my right to stand for what I believe in. I'm not going to stand by and let somebody else tell me that that's not appropriate for you to talk about. What she died of, what happened to her, who cares? Because it's been 30, almost 40 years since it happened. And they think, well, who cares anymore? You know, that's how the people at her high school reunion treated me. They said, it's over with. Who cares anymore? Don't think about the fact that she's gone. Don't think about the fact she even existed. And that's what really upsets me about why people like Christian and others can get away with this horse crap. That they can tell somebody, you're not allowed to speak that way, you're not allowed to say that, you're not allowed to talk about this or the other, because now your socialist government is telling you what you will think, what you will believe, what you experienced in your life is now up to them to decide whether or not it's appropriate to talk about, that you should even exist anymore. That's what this video is about today. To say to everybody watching it, YouTube, socialism, fascism, and communism has now shown itself. It has raised its ugly head up and told the United States people, you as a citizen no longer has any validity as far as rights, choices, anything, even though we pay taxes. We pay into a government system, and we're supposed to be represented for the money we pay into our taxes. Now YouTube and all the rest of the socialist government itself is saying that means nothing. Now it's all about one thing. It's about giving all of the rights you and I are supposed to have as citizens of this country. They're going to give it to the Mexicans. They've already given it to the Muslims, neither of which know English, neither of which pay taxes. If they do, it's a rare scenario, because when they come here, they don't have to have a green card. They don't have to have anything. What does Obama, what did he give them? He gave them a driver's license. He gave them welfare as soon as they walked across the border. He still does. He says Muslims are the greatest religion in the world, and we will honor and we will respect them, and we will do whatever it takes to show them that we worship them, we respect everything they do, even though they've killed over 3,000 people on 9/11, and then people say, oh no, that was not Islam, that was radical Islam. I'm just like, radical Islam comes out of the same Quran that they claim peaceful Muslims live by themselves. So you cannot use that analogy that there is two different kinds of Muslims. If they have one Quran, then that's the book you're supposed to use as reference to what they believe in. And these are the things that Barack Obama endorses. He endorses the murder of innocent people because he created sanctuary cities. It's Barack Obama who endorses the philosophy that letting immigrants into this country who are not citizens is not only legit, it's not only fair, but putting them in societies where there are sanctuary cities is totally legit and acceptable. And that we, as Americans who pay taxes, should pay everything for those people. And that's wrong in itself, because that's taxation without representation. If you've never heard that term before, it means you pay taxes and you're supposed to be represented for those taxes. What it's being used for what purpose, who does it go to? And the United States government itself, I do not blame Trump for this, because Obama had 8 years to put it all in motion. And that's why when Trump was elected, he said, I'm going to get rid of all these people who make up Obama's swamp. But you see that the communist, socialist Democrats have been controlling things ever since Trump came into office. They've been saying, we're going to control you. We're going to control everything you have, everything you try to do, Trump. We're going to put you down. We're going to condemn you. We're going to attack you. And that's happened now for almost 4 years on a day-to-day thing. They've done that to Trump every single day since he took his oath of office as President of the United States. So in a nutshell, what this video is about is one thing. It's a warning to everybody in this country that you, as an American citizen, and what you pay in your taxes means nothing to the United States government, to the socialists, the Democrats, because they're saying what you've earned, it's the same word-for-word philosophy and analogy that Barack Obama said to Joe the plumber when he was running in 2008. What did he tell Joe the plumber? I'm going to take everything you've earned all your life and I'm going to give it to somebody else who doesn't want to work, who does not have any legitimate reason to be in this country, who has no entitlement to that money. And that's what he said to Joe the plumber. I'm going to take everything you have and I'm going to give it to who I think should have it. And that's what communism, that's what socialism is right now in America. That's what YouTube just did to me. They're saying we're now in total control of this whole country. It doesn't matter anymore what you say. We control what you do, what you say, what you think. It's now about them. It's about the socialist, democratic communists who are saying what we will do and what we will not do in this country anymore. And that ought to scare you to death, that we allow this to go to this point. Most people are these addicts who are now on heroin, they're on marijuana. I remember after Obama became president, we had such an influx in thrift stores of people who came into the store and they were high on heroin. They were high on marijuana. Why? Because Obama made it legal for them to buy that stuff. Before he did what he did, you never saw that anywhere in the southeastern United States, because at that time it was still illegal. Now, because of what the communists and the socialists are doing, the Democrats are making it legal. They've just passed in Georgia the legalized growing of marijuana. And then they try to say, well, no, it's not going to be for recreational use. That's next, because once you've legalized medical marijuana, the next stage, and all you got to do is look at California, Colorado, and Massachusetts. They made all of those states recreational use of marijuana legal. And so America is now just basically a pot country. That's exactly what the potheads want. That's what everybody else wants. And that's why you don't see anybody speaking out, retaliating, saying this is wrong. Common sense is still in effect, at least in Alabama for the time being, and in Georgia, because they're trying to stop the murder of unborn children. And society says, well, who cares if we kill children? Who cares what happens to them? It's supposed to be the mother's decision whether it's life or it's not life. It has a heartbeat, and you're saying, that's not human. It ain't human until the mother says it's human, whether it's been born already or it's not been born already. People should stand up. Somebody should have the guts to say these things are wrong, and we shouldn't stand by anymore and let it go on the way it's going on in America. Because if you don't stand up against these things, folks, they will roll over you. You'll be like the coyote after they've rolled him over with a pavement presser. That's it. You're nothing anymore. You're just a piece of tissue paper blowing in the wind, because that's what the government's just done. They said you don't have rights anymore. We're going to give them to people who don't deserve them, who aren't actually citizens of America. And it also proves one other thing. America, who had, as a nation, the sovereignty of its people and its land, YouTube has now said your sovereignty is gone. There is no sovereignty in America anymore. There is nothing. And the joke of all jokes is we have to still pay taxes. And yet it's not serving us. It is only serving people who legally do not have rights, because they're coming into the United States with no rights to begin with. And the Democratic Socialist Communists are saying we're going to give it to them. We're going to give it to them because that's the only right thing to do. Oh, but in the process of us giving all these things to the Mexicans, we have to eradicate your rights. Yeah, you're paying the taxes, but it doesn't matter. Your rights are gone, because now we have to give it to these people who aren't entitled to those rights. And that's exactly what YouTube is now saying about our individual rights as American citizens to speak out, to say anything on YouTube about what YouTube itself is doing. This is proof positive to me. We know the communists and the socialists have been controlling the media. That's all it's been since day one. Fake news, false news reports. YouTube over the last year and a half, 2 years, have been progressively advocating the idea that they were going to control and say what we are allowed to say in this country as American citizens. And now YouTube has just said, that's gone. We're going to decide whether or not what you're saying is acceptable to us, and if it's not, we're going to erase it. We're going to take it off the channel, we're going to take it off the internet. Can't say that no more. So if this channel or this video remains on more than a week, it will be a shock, because it means YouTube either doesn't know about it yet, or that Christian himself, who can't find any video in it about himself except a photograph, that's the only thing he can say to YouTube. The video is to me it's unacceptable. It's embarrassing to me, or in some way he's unhappy with it, only because his photograph is in it. And a photograph in itself is not copyright unless he can claim that his picture or himself as a likeness is copyrighted. Other than that, there's nothing else in this video that he can claim is anything of his. And to think all of this began because I tried to do something nice for that guy, and he totally exploded. Well, now I'm exploding, and I'm going to say it flat out. If you don't stand up for your rights, then you don't deserve those rights. No American who stands by and lets our government and lets all these social media outlets do this to us, you don't deserve anything. You don't deserve rights, period. Because you don't care what they do to other people. I think it's kind of like what happened when my sister was murdered, when she was burned to death. The attitude in 1983 when it happened was this: if it doesn't happen to me, if it doesn't affect me, I don't care. When it did happen to my family, all of a sudden, it's a wake-up. It's like, oh man, I didn't know it would be like this. We tried to sue Winn-Dixie. In Florida, where it happened, they said, you can't sue your employer. We was like, we don't work for Winn-Dixie. They said, it doesn't matter. You're representing her, and she was an employee. They threw all of the cases for wrongful death, willing negligence, because they knew the guy that killed her was a threat to that store. and they didn't do anything. All those cases were thrown out in Florida because of one law that says if you sue your employer and you are either a family member or an actual employee of that company, you have no legal rights under Florida law to sue them. And as far as my sister, her death to Winn-Dixie was basically, we'll pay you for her funeral, we'll pay you the accidental death and dismemberment insurance, and that was it. As far as the 4 customers, they all settled out of court, so nobody knew how much they got. It's not about money. It's about how did they treat people, human beings who died in that store. And I'm going to tell you, Winn-Dixie didn't give a crap about her. They didn't give a flip about their customers. All they cared about was hush, hush, hush. End it. Don't talk about it anymore. That's what YouTube's going to do to everybody who speaks out about communism and socialism. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to say, oh, we can't talk about that anymore. Boom. There goes your channel, or there goes your video. Take it off the air. Take it off YouTube. Take it off the internet. They're going to say, you can't speak about that anymore. That's it. It's over. So, if you don't speak out now, folks, it's your own fault because you didn't care one way or the other. And that's what I'm saying in my video. If you don't care now, you won't care in the future. End of story, end of our nation, end of everything, because it won't matter anymore because you don't care and you never have.
So, there's a couple of things. This is just a quick thumbnail of this. But I have been overwhelmed at how far down the road we are. Has anyone noticed how fast all of this is happening? Has anyone noticed how fast all of this is happening? Has anyone noticed how fast all of this is happening? Has anyone noticed how fast all of this is happening?
بيحب المثل
His name is Omran Daknesh, just 5 years old, and his feet barely hung over the edge of a seat in an ambulance. Dazed, he didn't cry as he wiped away blood and the dust of a building that collapsed around him in an airstrike. His silence somehow reminded the world today of its silence in the face of the atrocities in Aleppo. Omran was pulled out alive Wednesday. 5 other children died when the building they were in was hit during the relentless Syrian-Russian offensive on rebel-held areas in Aleppo. The image of Omran's face spread like wildfire on the internet. One tweet called him the real representative of the Syrian people.
Stop killing Syrian innocent people, civilian. Our children need to live in peace.
The doctor who treated Omran said today there were many more severe cases no one is paying attention to.
We need to protect our hospital, our doctors, our medical workers from airstrike.
Omran was recovering. His family now wants to escape. The same choice another boy's family made a year ago, Aylan Kurdi, whose body washed up on a beach. He too was a symbol of Syria's youngest victims. Now there's a new one. Tomorrow there may be another. Richard Engel, NBC News.
They've reported from around the world, challenged the powerful, and they bring all of this to every story that breaks.
We've got breaking news, and it's good news.
And touches your heart.
How do you even say thank you? Thank you is not big enough.
I made this.
The images shocked the world. Relentless bombings. Stunned survivors.
Hai, yang berubah. Hai, ambil cuti. Selesai. Apa keluar? Keluar, apa yang ada? Sudah tahu.